Thanks for joining me on this journey of joy, grief, and authenticity. My name is Hilarie Houghton, and I haven't walked my journey alone. My husband Jamin here, we lost our daughter, Hollis Olivia, last year in May, and it's been a journey. And she was 6 days old whenever she died of a genetic disorder, and it was a complete shock to us. I've started this vlog, and as I've spent, almost 30 weeks doing this, I've really gotten tired of listening to myself talk, and I think everybody else has too. So I wanted to bring on someone else who, and hopefully other guests as well, who can really talk about what their experience has been like, because I hope I've made it clear that the grief journey and the journey back towards joy is, it's a long one and it's different for everybody. And so that's why I brought my husband on, and I've never felt closer to him than I do right now. So, Jamin, husband, how do you feel like people, I know we both feel like we were supported really well after Hollis died, but specifically, what are some good examples of how people supported you as the father?
Really probably just checking up on me. Like there's, some friends who would just consistently every so often like text or call and ask how I was doing, and, offer to hang out if I needed to. That's probably the most effective way, because it comes sporadically. Like you sort of gear up for big events. Like you gear up for the funeral, and then you gear up for like a month after, and then 6 months after you gear up for Christmas and things like that. And even like Father's Day, you gear up for that. And so you're really okay then. But it's like the Thursday randomly that you're having a hard time when somebody checks up on you and reminds you that you're not by yourself in it.
Yeah. Okay, so after the loss of a baby, maybe a child, but more specifically a baby, I think it can be really easy, and I'm making an assumption here, but I think it can be really easy for people to think about the mom that carried that baby, that had the 9 months with the baby in her womb, and I think immediately people go, how's the mom? And I don't know, sometimes I wonder, especially with today being Father's Day, I kind of wonder from your perspective if the fathers ever kind of maybe aren't acknowledged as much in this journey. What do you think about that?
I think people probably think about the fathers in the same vein as they do mothers. I do think they think of the mothers first, but I think people don't know how to relate to the father. Like, just as men, you tend to be more stoic a lot of times and show less emotion, and to wear your feelings less on your sleeve. As a man, it's more difficult, because you want to be the protector, like physically, but you also want to be the protector emotionally. So you guard your emotions more closely. And so I think a lot of people probably assume that you're doing a little bit better than maybe you really are. It's less likely for them to check up on a husband, or even to think that maybe there's a problem there, because they see him and they're like, oh, he's right there. He looks fine.
Yeah.
So, so I think people are conscious of it as much, but I think they don't really know what to do with it a lot of times.
Yeah, that's good point. Okay, so what advice would you give to somebody who is trying to support a father, specifically, who has lost a child, and maybe more specifically, because we can relate to this, a baby?
I would probably say just to continue to check up on them, even if they're not responsive, and try to try to get them out of the house, because I think men, like, a lot of times don't know what to do with emotion, and so they retreat, and so they don't respond a lot, and that can, I think that can get frustrating on the other end when you're not seeing much response and they look like they're doing okay. Just time with friends and conversations with friends, and not even necessarily like conversations about stuff, just like,
Or about that stuff.
yeah, just about, yeah, not even about that stuff, and not even about anything serious, just like a day on the golf course or something like that, where they can kind of get away and get out of it, and then maybe loosen up to the point where they can talk about it. I think a lot of guys like probably aren't gonna have a serious conversation until they're like an hour into hanging out with their buddies.
Yeah.
Like they're not gonna come just jump right into it. And so
it's not like lunch conversation where you just dive right in.
Yeah, you're not gonna show up, shake hands, and sit down and then like talk about how you feel. So I think like those times where it's an evening, or maybe it's like a longer dinner, or out on the golf course, stuff like that, where you can get to that point where you can figure out what you want to say and how to say it.
Yeah. I remember after Hollis had died, one of the times we got to be with friends, and I remember the first time that we both laughed, and it felt weird, but it felt really good, and it felt really important and healthy, and we couldn't do that with just anybody. It had to be with real friends who weren't going to judge you for laughing, and were going to help you take your mind off of things if that's what you needed at that moment.
Yeah, and I think frequency is important, because when people don't see you frequently, they don't know like how you've dealt with it. Like when you see somebody for the first time after, let's say it's a month after the funeral or something like that, and they haven't seen you since the funeral. Like they see you, and a lot of times like they'll kind of break down a little bit, and you're not really in that place. Like you've been breaking down for the last 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And so I think frequency of seeing somebody lets you keep up and lets you keep pace with where they are, and gives them the freedom to be sad, or for that day, for everything to be okay.
Yeah. Well, husband, thanks for joining me on this journey of joy, grief, and authenticity. And thanks to you guys for listening, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And we just love you guys, and hope that if you are going through something difficult, that maybe this helped in some small way.